What's up, everybody? So, in this video, in this live video on, I don't even know what today's date is. I am coming to you live from my hotel room in beautiful Boise, Idaho. Came out here for a quick mastermind, but I was listening to a podcast today, and it made me think about a really cool topic that I want to talk to you about. And that topic is, if you want a successful law firm, if you want to be a successful lawyer, if you want to be a successful person at anything really, there's two questions that you have to ask yourself, right? And if you ask yourself these two questions, I promise you, you'll be successful, right? And it's really, really interesting. Now, before we get into this, two things. First of all, if you have marketing questions about growing a law firm, leave them in the comments below because I'm always looking for more topics to answer. I'm going to do this. I'm doing these videos every day, so let me know if you have questions. I'd be happy to answer them for you. Second, if you want every training video that I've done over the last 2 years, then I want you to go to lawyermarketingvault.com. The link is in the description, and that's going to give you free access to pretty much every training that I've done over the last 2 years. We got training on social media, training on reviews, training on video, training on email. It's all in there. It's all free. Take it. It's yours. All you got to do is go to lawyermarketingvault.com. Now, let's go back to these two questions that if you want to be successful at anything, and it's not even just running a law firm, right? Now, it's applicable to running a law firm because this is a channel about marketing law firms, right? And growing a law firm. But if you want to be a successful, husband, if you want to be a successful father, if you want to be a successful golfer, whatever you want, whatever it is, you just have to ask yourself two questions, right? And what's interesting is that I was listening to a podcast today and I heard somebody talking about a conversation with Thomas Edison, right? And what's really interesting is the conversation happened with Thomas Edison about 30 years after Thomas Edison died. So, how did a conversation with Thomas Edison happen? Well, what's interesting is that the author or the person who wrote this fake interview with Thomas Edison basically said, okay, what I did is he did a lot of research and he knew kind of what type of person Thomas Edison was, right? So he basically asked a question and then he answered it the way that he thought Thomas Edison would answer the question, right? So it's like, okay, what would Thomas Edison do or say in this situation, right? And by doing that, you're able to put yourself in the mindset of that other person, right? So, for example, most people know that if you ask me, hey, Andy, how do I get leads for my law firm? I would say, create value videos and provide more value than you expect to receive, and then it's going to come back, right? So people don't necessarily, excuse me, I got the hiccups. People don't necessarily have to you don't have to be a rocket surgeon to figure out that that's what I'm going to say, because that's what I'm going to say, right? So what's interesting is you can apply this to everything. So, for example, if what you need to do, first of all, you need to figure out like who's a role model that you want to become, or who's the type of person. So maybe it's like you want to be a model father, right? And you want to be somebody that's always there for your kids and all that type of stuff, right? So you have to figure out, first question is, who do I want to become? Whether that's, what type of lawyer do I want to become? What, maybe there's maybe there's a person that you want to be like, right? So first the question is, who do I want to become, or who do I want to emulate, right? Like, it should be a role model, right? So, and then the second question is, during any situation, ask yourself, what would that person do in this scenario, right? So, for example, let's say you want to be a better father, right? If you model yourself after someone who you think is a really good father, and something happens, so let's say you have a situation where, like, potentially, you may have to miss a kid's event for some work thing or something like that. I don't know. Ask yourself, what would this person do in this scenario? And typically, if you put yourself and you think of it like that, you're going to get the right answer, right? So if you want to be the type of person that you're striving to be, you've got to always be asking yourself, what would that type of person do in this scenario, right? So let's say you want to be like, I don't know, some really successful trial attorney, right? Who has a big law firm, and they run their law firm, which they run their law firm in a way that you would love to run your law firm, right? So what you have to do in any scenario where you're not sure exactly what to do, or maybe you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing, you have to ask yourself, okay, what would this person do in this scenario, right? So let's say, for example, maybe not everybody wants to do this. Maybe you want to be as big as John Morgan, right? Maybe you want to be a John Morgan size attorney, right? And then you have to ask yourself, okay, well, if I want to be an attorney like John Morgan and have an empire like John Morgan, um, what would John Morgan do in this scenario? So maybe it's a scenario about like getting on the phone with somebody or something like that, right? Ask yourself, what would John Morgan do in this scenario? Would John Morgan be handling intake? Would John Morgan be handling casework? Would John Morgan be, you know, do he wouldn't be, right? He's focusing on the bigger picture of growing the law firm and, advertising and where should we make these investments and things like that, right? So what you have to always think about is think about who is the type of person that I want to be like. It can be a real person, or it can be a fictional person, or just kind of the idea of some person. And then in any given situation, ask yourself, what would that type of person do in this situation, right? And if you do that, then you're going to end up making decisions that mimic the type of person that you want to become. And then by doing so, by taking those actions, you're going to start becoming the type of person that you want to become, right? So think about, remember those "What would Jesus do" bracelets? Now, I'm not religious whatsoever. In fact, I was raised Jewish, right? But that's the point of this whole thing, right? The point of those bracelets was, what would Jesus do in this scenario? What would Jesus do? And the idea is that you want to be more like Jesus. I don't know if you do or not. That's your own personal business. But the idea behind that makes sense. Jesus is, people view him as this person that did all these great things. So if I'm in this scenario, if Jesus was in the same scenario, what would he do? Right now, again, not a religious conversation. I'm Jewish, right? But I'm just making the point, right? So, those are the two questions. And I found myself doing that quite often. There's a lot of times like, I always say, what would a successful entrepreneur do in this scenario? My alarm goes off every morning at 4:30 a.m., right? And I have a question. I have to ask myself. At 4:30 a.m., would a successful entrepreneur, would they press the snooze button, or would they get out of bed and splash some water in the face and get to work, right? And with that, with that philosophy, I'm able to get up every morning and get up even when I don't feel like it, even when I feel like hitting snooze, right? So try it, right? Figure out who is it that you want to become, and then figure out what would that type of person do in any given scenario. And I promise you, it will change your life. Again, another thing that's going to change your life is the Lawyer Marketing Vault, which all you have to do is go to lawyermarketingvault.com or click the link around this video, and that will give you free access to all the trainings that I've created over the last 2 years. It's pretty awesome. No strings attached. Just enter your email. We'll send it right to you. So again, if you guys have any other questions, any other things that you want me to cover in these videos, please leave them in a comment below, and we will talk to you guys next time.